So you're telling me there's a chance the St. Louis Blues could go make it into the playoffs? Well, technically, yes, if you count a 0.1% chance. I'm going to discuss all the possible scenarios that could happen, that won't happen, but are still fun to talk about today here on Locked On Blues.
You're Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, and welcome back to Locked On Blues. I am your host of Locked On Blues, Haley Taylor Simon, talking to you all things about our St. Louis Blues here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm going to talk about the Blues' playoff scenario because I think it's absolutely insane. Getting ready for the Chicago Blackhawks tomorrow, and are we feeling disappointed or optimistic? I'm going to dive into what exactly all of this means here in Locked On Blues. I'll talk a little bit more about some frustration that I have, but I think you're going to be a little bit surprised about my positive takeaways with such a negative, almost to be outcome of the season. So I do want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com/locked on to get started. I hope everybody is having a happy Tuesday. I think that last night, the Golden Knights losing was a positive because now it gives the Blues this insane playoff scenario possibility that I still don't think is going to happen, but anything is possible. Got a lot of attraction on Twitter, surprisingly. I didn't realize it was going to blow up the way that it did with 13,000 impressions, but this is what it says. Now that the Vegas Golden Knights lost to the Canucks, this is the scenario of the Blues getting into the playoffs. And you're going to laugh because I know it's nearly impossible, which is why the Blues have that 0.1% chance. But if you're somebody like me and you like to do math at this time of the season and just give all these scenarios, then maybe you would enjoy this. So the Blues need to win out. They need all 80, not 8 points. They all need, wait, can't do math. They all, oh my gosh, why can't I speak? The Blues need to get 8 points. So their total points of the season, the max amount of points that they can get this season would be 95 points if they were to win out. Okay, so that is basically set in stone what they need to do on the Blues' end. Now, on the other end, I'm going to have the Vegas Golden Knights since they are that second wild card spot. The Golden Knights have 92 points right now. So just remember, the Blues, they could potentially finish the season with 95 points. Right now, with 5 games left to go, the Knights have 92 points. So they could get 102 points to end the season, max. So the Golden Knights either have to win 1 game out of their next 5, and then they can go to overtime and lose in overtime only once, right? Or the other way that the Knights could finish out their season if they get 3 overtime losses and no wins. So you might be thinking to yourself, Haley, what is this? And this, my friends, is the reason why the Blues are not eliminated yet from the playoffs. So I know the Knights, they play tomorrow night. Let me go check on this because everyone's also saying, oh, when could the Blues be eliminated from the playoffs? Are the Blues going to be eliminated yet? The reason why the Blues have yet to be eliminated is because of this insane scenario, which, again, do I think is going to happen? Nope. But, again, not my call. So the Blues tomorrow night play the Oilers. Let's go be hypothetical for a second. If the Golden Knights beat the Oilers tomorrow night, then that's 2 points. The Blues will not be eliminated yet, even if they end up losing their game against the Blackhawks, because technically speaking, the Blues, I'm doing math here. then the maximum of points that they could get would be 93 points if they won the next 3 games, and the Knights would still be at that 92 right now. If you're following along with me, please understand I spent hours on this today because that's how insane I am, and I was just coming up with all the possibilities of the Blues making the playoffs. Okay. So let's just say they beat the Oilers. Now on Friday, they play the Wild. Mind you, the maximum amount of points that the Vegas Golden Knights can get for the Blues to have any kind of chance of making it to the playoffs is 3 points. So if they beat the Wild on Friday, that means the Golden Knights will then have 4 points, which means the St. Louis Blues will be eliminated from the playoffs despite how they do. Now, a lot of things go through my head, right? And I think there is one other scenario that I'm going to take a look at, and we're going to talk about this scenario live just because I forget what exactly the scenario was. Let me go take a check. So it's not going to happen. The Predators have 94 points right now, and they still have about 4 games left to go. So this is the other scenario. Mind you, I think this is the stupidest thing ever, and this is probably not going to happen. But let's go say the Predators, which I know it's not going to happen. They're losing now, so I mean, technically, it could happen. Actually, it could happen. Let's go say the Predators lose out, right? They're losing now 3-1 to those Jets. So let's go Winnipeg. Then they have the Blackhawks, the Blue Jackets, and the Penguins. So it's very unlikely, but if the Predators end up losing out, then if the Blues win all their games, then they could get into the playoffs. Oh my gosh, this is not happening. Yeah, so that explains why the Blues do have that 0.1% chance because it is very unlikely that the Predators are going to gain no points within the next because they can't even go to overtime and get that OTL. It has to be regulation losses. So there's no way that Nashville is going to get 4 regulation losses. And I personally don't think there's no way the Golden Knights go the next 5 games only gaining 3 points. It could happen. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's not going to happen. And let's see, are the Wild officially eliminated yet? I believe the Wild will be eliminated tonight. I forget what was said, but they have 77 games left, right? So they still have 5 games. So you take 10 points, you add 93. So technically speaking, it's kind of like the same situation with us a little bit differently. The maximum amount of points that Minnesota can get this season would be 93 points. The Predators, because they have 94 points, it's impossible for Minnesota to get that first wildcard spot, meaning that it's the second wildcard spot. And they would have to pray that Las Vegas only that they lose out. They lose their next 5 games. So I'm kind of surprised that Minnesota has the same amount of percentages we do because technically speaking, we can go until Friday and not be eliminated from the playoffs. This is really bad. Just to put it in perspective. The Central's already clinched. It's the Dallas Stars, the Avs, and the Winnipeg Jets. I did say at the beginning of the season that the Dallas Stars would win the cup, and I think that that might come true. And the Pacific, it's almost clinched. It's the Canucks, the Oilers. Right now, the Kings are sitting in that third place wildcard spot, but because then they have 93 points and the Knights have 92 points. And you might be thinking to yourself, hell, the Kings, like what if the Knights get ahead of the Kings? And they still have 5 games left. So, yeah, it's not good. You know what's weird though? The Oilers only have 96 points, which is kind of crazy. I mean, not 96 points, 96 games. Not 76 games. I can't do English. But yeah, sometimes I wish they could just eliminate teams because this is brutal. This is really brutal. And when the Blues needed to win the most, they weren't winning. So I'm like, what are we doing here, St. Louis? I'm going to talk about the game against the Blackhawks tomorrow. And I still have some optimism, which I'll dive into, unfortunately. I truly don't understand how I have the optimism because I feel very negative, but I'll explain about that. And the optimism isn't about the playoffs, by the way, just to let you know, like I'm not crazy. Okay. It's playoff time for the NBA and NHL. Baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's 150 bucks, win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs and slam dunks. All on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Visit fanduel.com/locked on and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So yeah, we play the Blackhawks tomorrow. We're back at home. Last time this season, a little home stand. I don't feel good about this game, to be honest with you. I'll explain why. I think the Blues could win, right? And it doesn't matter if this goes to overtime and the Blues win, just get those 2 points. I love this team, and I will say that forever, and we have 87 points. Tomorrow, if we're able to be at 89 points, hypothetically, the Knights lose tomorrow, then we're 3 points behind Vegas, right? And I'm really big on wins, losses, and overtime points. We have more OTL. Do we? Let me go check. Oh no. Never mind. They have more than us. Oh man. Oh man, this is not good. Yeah, no, no, we have to get 2 points. Um so you might be wondering, Hale, like, do you think it's possible against the Blackhawks? I think anything is possible. I do. I think that at this point in the season, the Blues have more to lose than the Blackhawks because we know the Hawks are going to be getting some good draft picks with how poorly they did this year. And the Blues, now let's talk about this. Let's talk it out. They're not going to get a top 5 pick. Maybe they'll go, depending on how they finish, like 13th overall, something like that, but nothing too crazy. I think that at this point, the Blues are going to try their best to get into the playoffs in some way. That's what I'm thinking. I don't think this team fully grasps, but they're basically at. So just to put into perspective, the Wild on Sunday defeated the Blackhawks 4-0. I think we can do this. I really do. The Blackhawks have been winning though lately. I want to take a look at their last stretch of games. They beat the Sharks 5-4 in OT. Then they beat the Flames 3-1. They lost to the Senators 2-0. They beat the Flyers 5-1. They beat the Islanders beat them 2-1. They beat the Dallas Stars, right, on Saturday 3-2. And then they just shut out the Wild 4-0. So it's not like they're playing that bad of hockey, but granted, what do I know? Obviously, I hope when the Blackhawks play the Golden Knights on April 16th, they're able to beat them. So I'm hoping for that scenario. But I don't know if the Blues have it within them to beat Chicago. If you asked me the same question a month ago, I would say, yeah, 100%. But the Blues had plenty of opportunity to solidify a playoff spot, and it was within their reach, right? Beat the Sharks 2 points. If the Blues had 89 points right now, I would feel a lot better about this last stretch of games. But guess what? They don't. They have 87 because 3 games this season, they lost to the San Jose Sharks. They gained 1 out of 6 points against the Sharks this season. And it's not a dig on the Sharks, by the way. So I don't want anybody thinking, oh my gosh, Haley hates the Sharks. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the fact that San Jose is not a good hockey team right now. And granted, they do have talent, and I'm not knocking this team down because that's not what I'm about on this podcast. I believe that all teams will struggle at some point. I just am saying how it is this season that the San Jose Sharks are not a strong hockey team. Now, there was a lot of other games that the Blues messed up on. They messed up on the game against the Blue Jackets before the break. They messed up against Chicago multiple times. That Islanders game sticks with me because it really does bother me. But they messed up on so many different games. And think about the difference that the Blues had a couple more points than they do now, right? It is infuriating, it is frustrating, and it is absolutely, I don't want to say mind-blowing, but I just put things into perspective about how quickly a team can fall when there is a lack of something that they're missing. And I'm going to talk about what the Blues are missing and why I feel a little bit optimistic, which is a crazy thing to say at this point in the season. But again, I'm thinking ahead because I kind of accepted the reality of things. But first, I'm going to tell you about my friends over at Sleeper. It's almost the end of the season, Blues fans, and right now we're barely alive. But regardless of where we're at in the current standings, I want to remind you that you can win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports, and especially daily fantasy hockey. Because of Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. And this is where you take our guys like Robert Thomas, because it's always Robert Thomas season. And of course, my big man in net, Jordan Binnington, who has always been solid for the Blues, to record more or less than their sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus minus, and more in a given game. To win 100 times bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me, Blues fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail in your picks so you can start winning big. Use promo code Locked On NHL, and you'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code Locked On NHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. Feeling disappointed or feeling optimistic? A big question that I am throwing your way, a question that I want you to answer. So leave some answers in the comment section of this video. I think it's important for you and I to be real with each other that it's okay to feel disappointed. It's okay to feel annoyed about how the season played out. It's not over yet, so I'm not saying that it's completely done, but it is disappointing. So I did ask you on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it, was this a disappointing season? 168 votes, 67% of you said yes, while 33% of you said no. And I got a lot of interesting replies that I'm going to get to. So K Mac said, I'm on the fence. I always wanted my team to make the playoffs. I predicted that we would finish with the bottom of the wildcard spot at best or just outside the last wildcard spot at worst. So kind of spot on. Good moments. Goaltending, Jake Neighbors, Thomas, bad moments, the power play. Oh, I kept on saying 3 games against San Jose. I keep on forgetting that. Oh God. Getting 1 out of 10 points against San Jose and the Blue Jackets. Katie, why would you bring this up? I was already angry about this. Luther says, yes, because the loss is to bad teams defined it, but also no, because we were playing good and beat a lot of good teams. Charlie said, LOL at all the yes votes. Which team in the West, I guess he said Western Conference, playoffs do you think St. Louis is better than? Facts. Kevin said, disappointing, yes. Unexpected, no. Streaks of being competitive and streaks of being incompetent. The Drop Hockey Show said, we predicted the Blues would be close to a playoff spot, but still would fall short. Valid. Matt says, expected way more from 25. I feel like that happens every season. Leave Kyrou alone. Jay says, why? This is what his number says that he is. Oh, I guess he's agreeing. Never mind. Jimmy says, yes, the hockey club has 0 direction, and they will have the 16th pick in the draft. Couldn't have played out any worse. I did say that the draft pick at this point was going to be high. Bruce says, not really, because ultimately we got to where we thought we were going to be going into the season with, but frustrating road where they blew opportunities and made it worse. Remy says, yes, because they're a borderline playoff team for the next 10 years, and it's a horrible strategy. A. Will says, no, only because many of my expectations were very low and they were met. You know what? I like you, Will, because you just admitted that you had really low expectations. Meanwhile, I said maybe they could clinch a wild card spot the whole time. You were probably just were like, yeah, no, this team's gonna blow it. So old stuff said Armstrong came back with basically the same team and it sunk last season. So obviously it's gonna stink again. I did say that. I did say that this past summer. So thanks, Army, again. Jay said, with the team they had, this is pretty much what can be expected. No talented on the Blues. Excuse me, we have Robert Thomas. I don't want to hear anything about Robert Thomas. If there's any RT slander, I don't want to hear it because I love Robert Thomas. Austin says, depends in terms of what we were expecting after last season. Absolutely not. It was a good season. In terms of pure hockey, absolutely not fun to watch your team struggle to stay above 500 and lose consistently to some of the worst teams in the league. Austin then said, Neighbors and Thomas developed greatly, as well as Hofer adapting. So I agree on that. Jake Neighbors, Robert Thomas, and Joel Hofer were kind of like the highlights right of the season. Now on YouTube, I have some comments, and this is from Blondie Girl. I'm disappointed that we were probably not going to make the playoffs, but optimistic about the future, especially players like a Robert Thomas, a Jake Neighbors, and a Joel Hofer. 100%. And then the real Gary says, no chance, go Knights. Yeah, that's why the Blues have a 0.1% chance of making it to the playoffs because, again, I'm going to speak in Golden Knights terms with their mascot. There's no chance it's not going to happen. The thing about the Golden Knights is, and at the end of the day, they do have injuries on their team, but they do know what it's like more recently to have to play harder. And I know that they were clearly the better team in the playoffs last year, but I just feel like they still have that, fire in them, which is something that the Blues kind of lost fast. After we won the cup, it just wasn't the same. They didn't play great hockey consistently. It sucks. But I think that with the Blues, I don't think, at least in my opinion and how I feel as a fan, I'm not going to hate on the Golden Knights because at the end of the day, the Blues had multiple opportunities to become a playoff team if they won games against some of these weaker teams in the NHL. And if the Golden Knights end up getting more than 3 points in their next 5 games, then so be it. The reality is the Blues are not a good enough team to make it to the playoffs. Disappointing 100%, and I will stand by that. Blues fans, this sucks. Okay? 100%. I am proud of individual players. I am proud of Robert Thomas, like always. I am even proud of a Jake Neighbors, a Matthew Kessel, who got his first NHL goal the other night. I'm proud of Joel Hofer. Zachary Balduke, I'm proud of. I'm proud of certain players that have, shown to me what they're capable of. I don't think Perunovic had a great season. Tyler Tucker, I'm a fan of him, but did he impress me that much? Not really. And I'll talk about all these players when I do my season end of review recap episodes, which will be next week because we're going to be done playing hockey on Wednesday. I hate it here. I'm joking. No, it just sucks. I mean, our last game is against the Dallas Stars on Wednesday in Dallas, and I think they're going to win the cup. So it's not going to be nice. St. Louis, this sucks. I'm sorry that, it's been so negative lately, but it's because of the hockey team. It's not like our baseball team's helping in any way either. So that's another thing that's been a little frustrating for our city. At least we have soccer, right? But again, question that I'm asking today is, and I want everybody to answer this question if you can. Are you disappointed by this season, or are there positives that you can take away that make you more optimistic for next season? Let me know because I am genuinely curious about your response. Do you also think the Golden Knights could end up only gaining 3 points in their next 5 games and the Blues could win out? I don't, but maybe you do. All right. I will talk to you tomorrow. And like always, because no matter how disappointed I am, I'm going to always love this team. Let's go Blues. I'm always going to love this team, but it is what it is. All right. Bye, guys.